The champagne still felt fresh on my lips, a ghostly effervescence that tasted of triumph and betrayal. Just 24 hours earlier, I had been the toast of Horizon Marine Group. Now I was just toast. "We've decided to restructure your role, Sierra," Trevor Blackstone said, the words sliding out of his mouth with the same oily smoothness as the expensive pen he toyed with. He slid a new contract across the vast, gleaming expanse of the mahogany conference table. The document was a death sentence in triplicate. His voice, a low baritone I had once found reassuring, now carried that familiar, odious smugness I had grown to despise over the past 5 years. I didn't touch the papers. My hands, perfectly manicured for the celebration dinner the night before, were folded calmly in my lap. Inside, a furnace of fury was beginning to roar to life, but on the surface, I was a placid lake. "Restructure?" I repeated, my voice even. Trevor's smile was a thin, cruel slash. He leaned back in his leather throne, the CEO of this little kingdom, a man whose ambition was matched only by his profound lack of a moral compass. "Your salary is being cut by 50%, he continued, enjoying each word, "and you'll be moved to a clerical position. An administrative assistant, to be precise. You'll be supporting the new head of sales." I sat there in stunned silence, a gallery of disapproving oil-painted portraits of the company's forefathers staring down at me from the paneled walls. The air in the room, usually thick with the scent of expensive cologne and ambition, now felt suffocating. I processed his words, each one a hammer blow against the life I had so meticulously built. Just 24 hours earlier, I had closed the largest deal in Horizon Marine Group's 40-year history. It wasn't just a deal, it was a legacy. A $1.3 billion contract for 4 custom megayachts with the Al Rashid Investment Group, one of the most prestigious and elusive clients in the world. The kind of deal that legends are made of, the kind that secures a company's future for a decade. The champagne from our supposed celebration dinner, where Trevor had lauded my tenacity and charm, still felt like a phantom taste on my lips. "Let's be honest here." Trevor leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, though the other 4 executives in the room were well within earshot. Their eyes were fixed on their notepads, their phones, the polished surface of the table. "Anywhere but on me. We only used you for your looks to close deals. A pretty face to charm the old billionaires. But the Al Rashid deal, that was a fluke. A lucky break. You're in over your head. You're done." I looked from his sneering face to the silent, complicit men around the table. Men I had considered colleagues. Men I had, in some cases, considered friends. There was Mark, who I'd helped secure his own promotion last year. David, whose kids' birthdays I always remembered. Alan, who I'd mentored when he first joined the team. They shuffled papers. They cleared their throats. They avoided my gaze. The silence was a physical weight, pressing down, confirming their cowardice and my sudden, shocking expendability. And in that moment, I realized something. It wasn't just about the money or the title. It was about the utter, contemptuous dismissal of 5 years of my life. My name is Sierra Donovan. I'm 37 years old, and I had dedicated every waking hour of the last 5 years to making Horizon Marine Group the premier luxury yacht manufacturer on the East Coast. I specialized in ultra-luxury yacht sales to high-net-worth international clients. It was a world of breathtaking opulence and cutthroat competition. It was a world I had conquered. My relationships, the bedrock of my success, weren't built on a charming smile alone. They were forged over years of painstaking work, countless trips to Dubai, London, and Monaco, and more late-night phone calls across a dozen time zones than I could count. My office, a corner suite with a panoramic view of Boston Harbor, was my sanctuary. Every morning, I watched the sunrise paint the water golden while I prepared for another day of closing million-dollar deals. My life was a testament to what a woman could achieve in a male-dominated industry through sheer grit, intelligence, and an unyielding will to succeed. The Al Rashid contract wasn't just any deal. It was a testament to everything I had worked toward. 4 custom megayachts, each one a floating palace designed specifically for the client's vision. The negotiation process had taken 18 grueling months. I had lived and breathed that deal, sacrificing weekends, holidays, and personal relationships. I had anticipated every counteroffer, navigated complex cultural nuances, and outmaneuvered our fiercest competitors. I had done the work. I had earned the victory. And I had made it happen. I secured not just the initial sale, but ongoing maintenance contracts and potential future builds that could reach another billion in revenue. My commission alone should have set me up for life. And this was my reward. I don't understand. I finally managed to say, the words feeling foreign in my own mouth. My voice was steady, a small miracle, despite the fire building in my chest. This contract represents the biggest success in company history. My commission alone should be. Trevor cut me off with a dismissive wave of his hand, a gesture he'd perfected. Commission? He laughed, a short, barking sound that echoed in the silent room. You think you deserve commission for batting your eyelashes and looking pretty in meetings? Please. He gestured to the silent executives. The real work was done by our design team and engineers. You were just the pretty face we put in front of rich clients to get them to sign on the dotted line. The other executives shifted uncomfortably, but the wall of silence remained unbroken. In that moment, I realized just how expendable they had always considered me. A decorative, temporary asset. As Trevor continued his condescending speech about my new role, filing paperwork, answering phones, fetching coffee for the man who would take my place, I felt something shift inside me. The initial shock and hurt began to crystallize into a cold, hard, calculating energy. The fire in my chest was no longer a blaze of rage. It was a focused, controlled burn. A calm, calculating energy that reminded me exactly why I had insisted on certain clauses in my original employment contract 5 years ago. Trevor had forgotten something very important, and his arrogance was about to cost him everything. 5 years ago, when I first joined Horizon Marine Group, I wasn't the seasoned sales executive I am today. I had just left my position at Newport Shipyard after a messy departure involving a sexist supervisor who tried to take credit for my work. It was a painful, humiliating experience, but it taught me a valuable lesson. I was determined never to find myself in that vulnerable position again. So when Horizon, then a smaller, ambitious company, offered me the opportunity to build their luxury yacht division from the ground up, I saw my chance. I also saw the risks. During the contract negotiations, I didn't just focus on salary and bonuses. My background in maritime law, combined with my MBA from Boston University, had taught me to read between the lines of every agreement. While Trevor and the other executives focused on the standard salary and benefits package, I was inserting clauses that would safeguard my work and my relationships with clients. Clauses they, in their haste and arrogance, had barely glanced at. Clause 51A. It was buried deep in the legal language, a provision that seemed innocuous, a standard piece of boilerplate to their untrained eyes. At the time, their legal team barely gave it a second look. They were more concerned with non-compete agreements and intellectual property protections. But I knew that in the yacht industry, relationships were everything. And I wanted insurance that my work couldn't be stolen from under me. The clause was crystal clear. It stated that any restructuring or reduction in my role or compensation prior to the full commission payout of a secured deal would immediately void my client obligations to Horizon Marine Group and nullify any existing deals I had personally closed. More importantly, it gave my clients the legal right to withdraw from any contracts I had negotiated on Horizon's behalf. Sitting in that conference room, listening to Trevor's cruel dismissal of my achievements, I realized that my patience had finally reached its limit. The moment Trevor finished his humiliating speech about my new role, I calmly reached for my phone, which was sitting on the table beside my untouched glass of water. His smirk faltered slightly as I began typing, my thumbs moving with a speed and precision born of pure, unadulterated resolve. He continued talking about transition timelines and reduced responsibilities, clearly relishing what he thought was his moment of triumph. He was so caught up in his own power trip that he didn't notice the subtle shift in the room's atmosphere. "Are you even listening to me?" he snapped, his voice sharp with irritation. "Oh, I'm listening," I replied, not looking up from my phone. I was composing an email to Hassan al-Rashid's personal legal team, formally invoking Clause 51A of my employment contract. "I'm just taking care of some urgent business." What Trevor didn't realize was that I wasn't just sending an email. I was lighting a fuse. A fuse that was connected to a $1.3 billion powder keg. I hit send. The effect wasn't immediate, but the change in the room was palpable. I finally looked up from my phone, a small, knowing smile playing on my lips. "That won't be possible, Trevor," I said, my voice as cold and clear as the Boston Harbor on a winter morning. "Excuse me," he stammered, his bravado beginning to crack. "I said that won't be possible," I repeated, slowly getting to my feet. "You see, 5 years ago when I signed my contract with Horizon, I included several protective clauses. Clause 51A specifically addresses situations exactly like this one." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. I could see the dawning horror in the eyes of the other executives as they finally understood. "I'm talking about the fact that you just violated the terms of my employment contract by attempting to restructure my role and reduce my compensation before paying out the commissions I'm owed." I picked up my purse and walked towards the door. "The Al-Rashid contract I closed yesterday? The one worth $1.3 billion? I just informed their legal team that Horizon no longer has authorization to proceed with that agreement." The color drained from Trevor's face. It was as if someone had pulled a plug and all his arrogance and bluster had flowed out, leaving a pale, trembling shell. You can't do that," he whispered. "Actually, I can," I said, my hand on the doorknob. "And I just did." I tucked my phone into my purse and headed toward the door, leaving them in the silent, expensive tomb of their own making. "The clause was reviewed and approved by your legal team when I signed my original contract. Every single detail was documented and filed with human resources." As I stepped out into the hallway, the first buzz came from my phone. It was Hassan al-Rashid's team, confirming receipt of my notification and requesting an immediate meeting to discuss their options. I walked out of that conference room knowing that by Monday morning, Horizon Marine Group would be facing the biggest crisis in its 40-year history. And Trevor Blackstone would finally learn what it felt like to be powerless. The weekend was a blur of frantic communication. Trevor had called 17 times, each voicemail more desperate than the last. The legal department had reached out through 3 different channels. Even the company's founder, Gregory Horizon, had left a message asking for an urgent conversation about what he called a misunderstanding. There was no misunderstanding. I spent Friday night in my Boston apartment, overlooking the harbor where Horizon's showroom sparkled with lights. I methodically reviewed every document related to the Al-Rashid contract. My law degree hadn't gone to waste over the years. I had kept meticulous records of every conversation, every email, every commitment made during the 18-month negotiation process. Saturday morning brought a knock at my door. Through the peephole, I saw Trevor standing in the hallway, looking like he hadn't slept. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled, and his face carried the weight of someone who had spent the night realizing his career was about to implode. "Sierra, please," he said when I opened the door. "We need to talk." "I think you said everything you needed to say yesterday," I replied, not inviting him in. "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake," he pleaded. "The board is meeting Monday morning, and if the Al-Rashid contract is really void," he ran his hands through his hair, a gesture that would have seemed vulnerable if I hadn't known him for 5 years. "The company could face bankruptcy. 40 years of business, hundreds of employees." "Interesting that you're suddenly concerned about other people's livelihoods," I said, leaning against my doorframe, studying his panicked expression. "Yesterday, you were quite comfortable destroying mine." I was wrong. Completely wrong. Your work on the Al Rashid account was brilliant. The entire strategy, the relationship building, everything. I let my ego get in the way, and I said things that were inexcusable. He paused, clearly struggling with words that felt foreign in his mouth. I'm sorry, Sierra. Truly sorry. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Trevor looked genuinely devastated. And despite everything, I had spent 5 years working alongside him. But then I remembered his words from the conference room, the smugness in his voice when he told me I was only valuable for my looks, and my resolve hardened. Your apology doesn't change what you revealed about yourself and this company, I said quietly. For 5 years, I built relationships, closed deals, and generated millions in revenue. And the moment I achieved something truly extraordinary, you tried to steal the credit and reduce me to a secretary. Sunday arrived with an unexpected call from Hassan al-Rashid himself. It was 6 a.m. Boston time, which meant it was already afternoon in Dubai. I had been expecting this conversation, but hearing Hassan's familiar, deep voice still sent a jolt of nervous energy through me. Sierra, my friend, he said, his English carrying that slight, melodic accent that had become so familiar over our 18 months of negotiations. I received some very concerning communications from your legal department yesterday. Hassan, I replied, settling into my kitchen chair with a cup of coffee. I imagine you have questions about the contract status. Indeed, I do. Your message mentioned that Horizon Marine Group no longer has authorization to proceed with our agreement. This is unexpected, given our celebration just 3 days ago. I took a deep breath, knowing that this conversation would determine not just my future, but Hassan's opinion of my professional integrity. Hassan, I need to share something with you about what happened after our deal was finalized. I explained the entire situation, Trevor's demotion, the salary cut, his degrading comments, and the legal clause that gave me the right to void client contracts under these circumstances. Hassan listened without interruption, and I could almost feel his growing anger through the phone. This, Trevor Blackstone, Hassan said when I finished, his voice tight with controlled fury. He said you were only valuable for your appearance? Those were his exact words. A long pause followed. Hassan al-Rashid was a traditional businessman who valued respect and honor above all else. In our 18 months of working together, he had always treated me as an equal, valuing my expertise and judgment. To learn that my own company had disrespected me in such a fundamental way would be deeply offensive to him. Sierra, he said finally, in our culture, we have a saying, the tree that bears the most fruit is the one they throw stones at. You have been throwing fruit to ungrateful people. He paused again. I have a proposition for you. My heart began racing as I sensed where this conversation was heading. I have a proposition for you, Hassan continued. The Al-Rashid Group has been considering establishing our own marine consulting division. We want someone to oversee our yacht acquisitions, work directly with builders, manage our growing fleet. This person would report directly to me, work with an unlimited budget, and earn significantly more than any salary at Horizon Marine Group. Hassan, are you offering me a position? I am offering you a partnership, Sierra. You would be our director of marine assets, based in Dubai, with travel as needed. Your first project would be overseeing the construction of our 4 yachts, not with Horizon, but with whichever builder you recommend. Complete authority, complete trust. The irony was stunning. In trying to diminish my value, Trevor had inadvertently driven my most important client directly to me. Hassan wasn't just rescuing me from a toxic situation, he was offering me the career opportunity of a lifetime. The salary would be 3 times what you earned at Horizon, he added, plus equity in our marine division, plus bonuses tied to fleet value appreciation. Are you interested in discussing details? I looked out my window at Boston Harbor, where Horizon's facility glowed in the morning sun, and smiled. Hassan, I'm very interested. Monday morning arrived with all the drama I had anticipated. I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 unread emails, most from Horizon Marine Group in various states of panic. But the most interesting message was from Gregory Horizon himself, the company founder who rarely involved himself in day-to-day operations anymore. I finally called him back. "Mr. Horizon, I appreciate the offer, but I'm afraid it's too late." His face, which I could picture perfectly from the company portraits, surely fell. "Sierra, please be reasonable. This company has been my life's work. The Al Rashid contract represents our entire expansion plan for the next 5 years. Without it, you'll have to find another way forward," I said gently. Just like I had to find another way forward when your leadership team decided I was expendable. "What will it take? Name your price." I pulled out my phone and showed him the email I had drafted that morning. It was my formal acceptance of Hassan al-Rashid's offer. Hassan al-Rashid has offered me a position as Director of Marine Assets for the Al-Rashid Group. I'll be overseeing their yacht acquisitions worldwide, working with whatever builders I choose to recommend. My first decision will be selecting a new partner for their 4-yacht project. Gregory's eyes widened as he read the email details. It is. And it never would have happened if Trevor hadn't shown me exactly what my future at Horizon would look like. I stood up, extending my hand for a final handshake. "I'll be submitting my resignation today, effective immediately. The Al Rashid contract withdrawal is already in process." As I walked toward the elevator, I could hear the eruption of voices from the conference room behind me. By tomorrow, the industry would be buzzing with news of Horizon's loss and my dramatic career change. But I wasn't looking back anymore. I was looking toward Dubai, toward a future where my expertise would be valued rather than exploited. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in Hassan al-Rashid's Dubai office, looking out at the Persian Gulf while we finalized contracts with Benetti Yachts in Italy for the 4 mega-yacht project. The irony wasn't lost on me. Horizon had lost a $1.3 billion contract, and I was now overseeing an even larger deal, worth $1.8 billion, with their competitor. My phone buzzed with a news alert from Marine Industry Weekly. Horizon Marine Group faces financial crisis after losing historic contract. The article detailed how the company's stock had plummeted 40% in 3 weeks, forcing them to lay off 60 employees and cancel their planned expansion into European markets. Trevor Blackstone's name appeared nowhere in the article. 6 months into my new role, I was attending the Monaco Yacht Show as the Al Rashid Group's representative when I encountered the full scope of my revenge's impact. The show was the industry's most prestigious event, where yacht builders, designers, and buyers gathered to showcase the future of luxury marine vessels. I was examining a stunning new superyacht when a familiar voice called my name. Turning around, I saw Jennifer Walsh, Trevor's replacement at Horizon, approaching with what looked like forced enthusiasm. "Sierra, it's wonderful to see you here," she said, though her smile seemed strained. "How are you enjoying your new position?" "Very much," I replied warmly. Jennifer wasn't responsible for Trevor's actions, and I held no animosity toward her. "How are things at Horizon?" Her expression faltered slightly. "We're rebuilding. The Al Rashid situation created some challenges, but we're working through them." What she didn't say was what everyone in the industry already knew. Horizon Marine Group was struggling to survive. The loss of the Al Rashid contract had triggered a cascade of financial problems. Their expansion plans had been canceled, their workforce reduced by 30%, and several smaller clients had shifted their business to competitors after learning about the company's internal culture problems. "I wanted you to know," Jennifer continued, "that we've implemented new policies to ensure that what happened with Trevor never happens again. HR has mandated sensitivity training, we've restructured our commission system to be more equitable, and we've brought in external consultants to review our workplace culture." "That's good to hear," I said sincerely. "The industry needs companies that value all their employees." Jennifer nodded, then hesitated before adding, "If you ever consider returning to yacht sales in the United States." I smiled politely, but said nothing. My future was no longer tied to companies that had to learn the hard way how to treat their people with respect. That evening, as I watched the sunset over Monaco Harbor from the deck of Hassan's newest acquisition, I reflected on how dramatically my life had changed. Trevor's attempt to humiliate me had instead catapulted me into a position of influence I never could have imagined at Horizon. The best revenge, I realized, wasn't just escaping a toxic situation. It was thriving so completely that your former oppressors could only watch from the sidelines as you soared beyond their reach.